sharing scheme for state budget in support of the national economic recovery. And for more details about the scheme, we are now connected with Luky Afirman, Director General of Budget Financing and Risk Management of the Finance Ministry. Good afternoon, Pak Luky.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Pak Luky, could you please explain in brief about this burden sharing scheme?
Thank you. So, as you know, Indonesia has a track record of prudent fiscal policy in which we are always able to maintain to keep our budget deficit at level of maximum 3% of GDP as stipulated in our law, while ensuring that our economic growth remains robust. So this kind of practice provide a cushion for us to accommodate any temporary suspension fiscal deficit in the case of economic crisis or shocks. And as we know, we experienced this COVID-19 pandemic outbreak. So government of Indonesia has taken extraordinary step of temporarily suspending the fiscal deficit limit of 3% of GDP from 20 to 22. Because of that, now in the budget deficit for this year is expected to be 5.70% of GDP, reduction from 6.14% of GDP last year. And for 2022, we have submitted our budget proposal to Parliament with the budget deficit is set at level of 4.85% of GDP as the effort to pursue our fiscal consolidation in 2023. So talking about this burden sharing, as mandated in our law number 2, 2020, as I said, government has been taking extraordinary policies and steps in the context of preserving the national economy and financial system stability. We attempt to maximize the policy synergy between monetary and fiscal policy in order to accelerate the economic recovery. So to that end, Mr. Finance, together with Bank Indonesia, has entered into agreements, or we call it SKB, or joint decree, that allows BI, Bank Indonesia, to purchase government securities in the primary market to support fiscal policy. So there are a series of joint decrees so far. So far we have 3 under this scheme. It allows Bank Indonesia to act as what's so-called backstop buyer or standby buyer. And the second SKB, or the second joint decree, SKB number 2, basically this agreement between Ministry of Finance, Bank Indonesia, in which Bank Indonesia will share the burden, or we call it simply burden sharing scheme between government and Bank Indonesia. And to support the handling of the impact of COVID-19 on the health and humanitarian sector, especially with the significant increase of COVID-19 cases due to the Delta variant, BI, Bank Indonesia, has taken on a more active role through the third joint decree, SKB number 3. So this time, this initiative of SKB 3 came from Bank Indonesia with the backdrop of all for humanity and health. So accordingly, the scheme is directed at helping government in handling health sector, including vaccination, diagnostic therapeutic program, and other healthcare related to the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as for handling humanitarian services, including food assistance. Also, the we call it PKH, Community Protection Program.
So we heard that Bank Indonesia will purchase some amount of bonds. How much is it again?
First, as I said, there are 3 SKB or 3 joint decrees so far. And in 2020, Bank Indonesia, the total purchase by Bank Indonesia has reached around 473 trillion. That coming from SKB number 1 and SKB number 2 in 2022. And as of September 7 of 2021, under the SKB 1, so far Bank Indonesia has purchased in the amount of 138 trillion rupiah. Now, with this SKB 3, that was, as I said, initiated on the call for health and humanity, BI will purchase our government securities in the amount of 215 trillion in 2021 and 224 trillion in 2022. Just to be clear, the FKB1, the first joint decree, is valid for 2020 to 2022.
Okay, what is the highest budget allocation for the government has made? Is it for infrastructure spending during the COVID-19 recovery?
The 2021 budget is focused on basically important sectors like human resources and physical capital. We're talking about in more basically about health, education, social protection, and infrastructure to achieve sustainable economic recovery. However, as I said, that because that the 2021 we are still working on how we manage our economy, living with this COVID-19. So that's why budget allocation for community, namely for vaccination, COVID-19 patient treatment costs, and more like school operational assistance and some other subsidies like social protection as well as internet subsidy. So we are still allocating quite big amount for those kind of expenditure to support the society during this pandemic. Again, as I said, we have to be quite flexible yet responsive, but it has to be prudent. So what government has been doing so far, that first we are using what's so-called reserve funds. We have accumulated cash surplus from previous years, kind of our saving. So it's time for us to use them. And also we're also working on what's so-called reallocation, refocusing of budget. So when the COVID-19 cases increasing, so it means that I think we have to allocate more and more or bigger budget to anticipate to respond this COVID-19 escalation. Under this kind of situation, we also have to be creative. So that's why we also pursue what's so-called, exploring various creative, innovative financing alternatives like PPP, public-private partnership, as well as blended finance to reduce the burden of state budget for infrastructure financing, for example.
All right, thank you very much for the explanation, Pak Luky. And so we'll look forward to speaking to you again soon, and stay safe. Again, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.